to trickle in. So, hi everybody. We're gonna wait for people to trickle in. You can hear Lauren and I banter like we always do before we go live. So, isn't wasn't that based off of Tennessee?
Oh, good call. I think you're right.
I think parts of Deliverance were like for freaking real, like real deal Holyfield, Tennessee.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly where we were, and it was bizarre. I was like, how did we get here? Where are we? Yeah, this is the problem. Right here. We're in the middle of the problem.
It's scary shit.
I was like, did I just drive by and see like banners that are like completely wrong and inappropriate?
No, you didn't, because you were in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Well, again, because
I'm sure there's beautiful areas.
There are. I had a call center many years ago. That was in Johnson City. So Johnson City is like, I guess, a little bit west of Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh.
Absolutely, like the nicest salt of the earth people. Absolutely gorgeous. One of the best Targets I've ever been to in my entire life is in Johnsonville, Tennessee. So I guess it just all depends. Like there's some great, and the whole, and then and then I would just hang out there and then go into the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. It's just, you got like your pocket.
Right. You gotta stay in the pockets. Yeah, we were initially supposed to go to Asheville, but then, because of Corona, it was like, we realized we weren't going to actually be able to enjoy the town. So we were like, let's just stay in the mountains.
Gosh. I think that's another thing too, is like, this is challenging all of us to rethink staycation, like vacation. And that's another thing we can talk about too. Where are some places that people are trying to visit that's close and safe, so you can kind of get that change in scenery.
Yeah,
it's so important for us right now.
So true. It changes your whole perspective, just having those breaks from especially with what the reality is right now.
Yeah,
it's so important.
It's just like, okay, we gotta like have a little break, change it up.
Completely.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Larry girl. Hi, Gma. How are you? Hi, Sharon. Hope you guys are doing well. We have a very light crowd so far, but they'll join in when they can. So this is like really very laid back. I have no idea how this topic hit me. Do I have an idea? I was doing something. What did I tell you, Lauren? I was doing something. I was like, soul food.
Yeah. You didn't tell me the details, but as soon as you said it, I was like, that's it. It's a winner.
It's like doing something I probably wasn't supposed to be doing, doing something else. And then it hit me. It was like, ooh, soul food. Like, let's talk about books, blogs, podcasts, movies, anything that feeds your soul. Because I think one of the very important aspects of spiritual healing is you can study all you want to. You can pick up books on Reiki and Ayurvedic healing, but you also have to you have to take the study out of it, and you have to also just, what brings me joy? Yes. What are some books, some things that I can learn from that actually bring me joy? Or there's days when I'm low, what can help bring me up? And I think this is like a really good aspect, a good topic to talk about. We had some really good suggestions. Abraham Hicks, Jude recommended Abraham Hicks. Absolutely love Abraham. I used to listen to her all the time. Who else? There was another one. Jace actually recommended too. Your Word is Your Wand by Florence. I cannot pronounce this last name. Scoville Shin. I butchered that, but I will put it in. I will put all of these titles in the chat. Lauren, I know you have a great list. One of the things I loved about taking your sound healing class was we'd always start the class with a podcast, a book, something you were digging at that moment for healing. So you're like the encyclopedia. So let's talk about your list and what you can recommend.
The list is long, and honestly, it's like what I have written down is kind of like partial, because I'm always trying to discover and uncover new things. So I'm kind of like, I'm always open to, receiving ideas on new topics, new books. The one that you just mentioned, I actually have not heard of that book. Your Word is Your Wand, but the synchronicity of you mentioning that is huge. I just had a whole conversation with some friends, either last week or the week before, about how unbelievably important it is on the words we speak, and how your words will, first of all, define your reality, but they also define the way you view yourself. And that was part of the conversation that my friends and I were having, that we're, moving through this book of, working with each other, trying to help each other grow. It's kind of a spiritual group. We talked about it last time, but we were talking about how part of the opportunity was to write words that you define yourself by, and how just by shaping certain words about how you define yourself gives you a context of how you view yourself as a person, but how you view other people in the world around you, and how your words really are like, it's called spelling. And I always try to relate back to that, like, because you're casting a spell with your words. And if you're not into witchery or witchcraft, whatever, that the way that I'm saying that might not resonate with you, but that's actually how the word was, transitioned into how you make spells, because your words are conjuring up certain realities. So I love your friend's recommendation, and I'm going to have to check out that book. So thank you for recommending that.
Absolutely. I'm actually looking it up right now. So I can put the link in the chat.
Perfect.
What are some other, give us some more off your list.
So let's talk podcasts first. I'm a big podcast person, and I have like one that's like my go-to, because he always has the most amazing guests, and he has all different types of people on his show, and it's Rich Roll. And what's interesting about Rich Roll is he is a mega athlete, which I love, physical fitness, but I'm certainly not like a mega athlete. So that part of him, when I first discovered him, didn't fully resonate with me, because he's like an ultra endurance athlete. But what I love about him is he brings a spiritual component to every topic. So he's a runner, and he recognizes how running is like his spiritual savior, and how he relates it back to his connection to the universe or to God, or however you want to, connect with that. And he puts that spin into every conversation that he has. He also has lots of actually like people who are spiritual by trade on his show. So it's not always endurance athletes, and he has awesome topics. So he has somebody on there who's, a yogi, and his name is Guru Singh, and he's had some really interesting conversations with him. So, and what I love about the two of them is they come from like really different realms of how they live their lives, but then there's this crossover of spiritual connection that they always weave into all their discussions. So they've had lots of conversations together on his podcast, and I highly recommend them. There's always some new awareness that I come away with when I listen to their conversations. And that's what I look for in spiritual work. And I think that's important, because we don't want to just listen to things that are going to reaffirm what we already believe.
Exactly.
We want to listen to the things that are going to expand our awareness. Like, what is going to give me new perspective and give me an opportunity to see things in a new, enlightened way that I maybe hadn't considered before. So I think that's like a really important point of what you want to look for in topics and in conversations is, does it make you question how you view the world? And that's important, because we have certain, aspects that we are trained to believe throughout our lives. And we want to question those beliefs. We want to question, is this true to me? Is that actually how I feel? And when we question those, that lets us grow spiritually. So I think that's really important. So their conversations are my kind of first go-to. So Tara Brach is going to be my second. And I know you and I have definitely had a conversation about her before.
Yes. That was going to be one of the ones I was going to list. Go, but let me take it away.
Well, no, she's just mind blowing. So the way I discovered Tara Brach was through her book, Radical Acceptance. I was just making sure I had the words right. And I read that book in a time where I was in full confusion. It was probably 10 or 11 years ago, it completely changed everything. Like it was just one of those books that I recognized, you know, how my insecurities were holding me back from myself, and how almost, and I don't want to use the word, but I'm like how silly some of the aspects that we put onto ourselves of how we, you know, numb ourselves out, how we dumb ourselves down, how we, you know, we fight against the essence of who we are. And she allowed me through that book to like open myself up to this whole deeper acceptance of me as a person, who I am, recognizing that like, this is me. And if I can't love me, nobody else can either. And if I can't accept the flaws, but also the beautiful parts of myself, and which I think is, you know, it's, we accept our flaws much more effortlessly than we accept the good parts. And that was something that I took away from the book in a huge way. It changed my life. And I did that book actually with a meditation teacher before I was a meditation teacher. And she did like a 6-week or 8-week series, and it was just incredible. So after I uncovered Tara Brach, she's been one of my spiritual go-tos. She has not only several books, but she also has a podcast that I listen to regularly. There's a lot of meditations on there, and she's great. I don't know if she has a YouTube channel. I've never.
Yes. I put the link in.
Of course you did.
The YouTube channel. I'm very fortunate enough where I live less than 30 minutes away from where she gives her weekly.
Yes.
So I've been able to go in person several times to hear her talk. And it's free. You just, it's like, just put a little small donation towards the Sangha. Absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
Couple things about Tara that I love. This is where I don't mean to bring humor into a very serious topic, but me, and I'm an asshole, and this is what I do. So if I have a flight, and back when I was traveling all the time, before COVID, something about her voice, within 10 minutes, I'm like, and I would get mad at myself because I'm like, wake up, wake up. So I purposely listened to a talk she had already done. Her voice is just very soothing.
Yes.
She's got this way of, if you're up here, I actually played her voice in front of a tuner to get the pitch, because there's something about the pitch in her voice that just calms you before you even listen to anything that she has to say. I love her RAIN theory of working through trauma, and which is something, what's the R? Then acceptance, intention, and I don't know, I can't remember. What is it?
It's not radical. It's
let me look this up.
Yeah, look it up. She's amazing. And you're so right about her voice. There's like this cadence to the way she speaks that is just like so rhythmical that it like your brain automatically entrains into this state of meditation as soon as you hear her talk. I totally agree with that.
Okay, so RAIN is recognize what's happening.
Yes.
A is allow life to be just as it is. I is investigate inner experiences with kindness, and N is non-identification. So just ways to kind of combat the BS that we put ourselves through, and how to think through situations. I absolutely she's one of my tops.
She's one of my tops too. She's fantastic, and you can just feel the depth of her presence in her voice. So she's amazing. So that's also on my list.
And is this big in person?
Is she? That's so crazy.
I went up on her and I was like, I'm going to break her. I'm going to snap her in half. She's very, very little. Very
so funny. I didn't realize that. That's
tall. She's like, but she if you go, she'll
careful which breathing exercises you do around her. Okay, next.
I love your list.
So this is kind of an off one, but Russell Brand. Some people
have a podcast, right?
Yes, exactly. So he has a podcast, and he's totally out there. He's super wacky sometimes, but again, he's one of those people that sometimes he just says something and I'm like, yes, that shifted my perception and my awareness. And I love the accent. He's just fun to listen to. He's witty and he has these great conversations. And, I had listened to some of his, and sometimes loved them, sometimes was indifferent, but he did one with Brene Brown, and which Brene Brown is one of my people. The two of them together, like they were like best friends by the end of it. And you just like, it was so amazing to be part of the conversation, just to like be a fly on the wall, listening to the two of them relate to each other. It like turned me onto him on a whole other like realm. So I like his podcast is called Under the Skin. It's a good one.
Hello, friends. This is Rachel Arch.
Hold on. Sorry. I'm trying to pull up another source and then
You're good. So yeah, I'm a fan of his. And then with that, of course, I have to discuss Brene Brown because, I mean, she's...
How can you not?
How can you not? You can't leave her out of a conversation like this because she's awesome. And of course, I've listened to many of her books, but she also did a special on Netflix. And I really enjoyed getting to watch her because I know we were just saying like we also wanted to talk about movies and things. Yeah. I liked having, because usually I am listening. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts, but I liked actually watching her speak. It gave like a new depth to taking in her message. Yeah. And it was quick. It was like less than an hour, I think, but I gleaned a lot of information out of it. Things that she had already shared, but I took them in a new way. So I would highly recommend her Netflix special.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's somebody like that for me who, when I read their book and then when I hear them talk, especially about their books, I have very different perspectives. Right. And I go back and forth with this love-hate relationship. Mm. And Carolyn Myss, I have studied her books, studied under her for many years. Her books can be very dense. They can there can be a lot to try to take in and to try to break down, especially her most famous one. I can't believe my brain just like, I see the cover. Healing. Okay, it'll come to me in a second. But reading it, you're like, okay, that's really intense. But then when you listen to the audiobook version of it, you're expecting somebody to be reading the unabridged audiobook version, right? It's actually her giving a lecture on the book.
Oh.
Then you have this different, because she talks and tells stories and has this different perspective than what's in the book. And you're like, hi, I wasn't expecting that. Mm. And then I don't know why I was playing around one day and come to find out she has a YouTube channel.
Oh.
They're pretty quick. I don't think she has anything over like 25 minutes. Hearing her talks on her YouTube channel is just a whole different perspective. So I'm like, okay, which one? Do I like the book better? Do I like her lectures that are on audiobook? Or do I like, this YouTube series? And I think it all just depends on which book of hers I would recommend, which is where I would tell someone like, we were just talking about this one a few minutes ago. Was it Sacred Contracts?
Sacred Contracts, yeah.
Sacred Contracts, I would read the book. Mm. When I heard her do the unabridged audiobook, I was like, boo. Boo. You left out like 85 points that you had in the book. And then
that's interesting.
And then why can't I think of her first book? It took me like a year to read it. I'm not kidding you. But then when I got the unabridged audiobook version, or not the unabridged, when I heard her do the lecture of the book, I was like, God, I wish I had just done this.
Oh, wow. So much more to take in. Yeah.
It's just the way that she did it. So
yeah. Yeah. She had a book that I never finished it. It was many, many, many years ago, but I think it was just called Archetypes. And
yes.
Yeah.
Cards, just archetype tarot.
Yes. So I enjoyed that book because it was before I knew much about archetypes, and it gave me a really good kind of like first introduction.
Couldn't get through that book.
I couldn't get through it either. Which is why I said I finished it.
Audiobook lecture. Bomb. I listened to the whole thing while running a half marathon.
What? The archetypes one? Oh, how funny. Well, there's my answer. So I need to download that.
It's like not arguing with myself with people. People are like, is this crazy lady talking to herself? Because I'm like, oh man, no, I don't agree with you at all, Karen. No, the prostitute type is not like But yes, the book would not get through it. Doesn't mean it's not great information, just couldn't. Right. But
exactly. The audio it was very dense for me too. So I had the same experience. That's really funny. By the way, you ran a half marathon. You're a badass.
I've run 8.
Oh my God. Okay. Now I'm inspired.
No, you see my body now. I'm clearly not that person anymore.
It's not about body. It's about mental. Like No, I'm not there. So
They're boring.
maybe,
Save your knees. They're boring.
maybe one day.
So boring.
Okay, let's see. So a book that I read really recently, One Simple Thing, and this is by Eddie Stern.
Yep.
He is an Ashtanga yoga person, which is like not my style of yoga at all. But this book was just really like a great yoga book that was not like overly yogic. And I like that because like somebody who's not really into yoga could take this book, learn some of the concepts, learn some of the breathing stuff, and really like run with it. And I loved that about it. It was just really good. And it was one that I listened to more recently, and I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I was like, that's one I'm going to put to listen to again. So that's on there. So an old school book that I read in high school that also like changed my life is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It is super heavy, honestly, and he's a Holocaust survivor, and so it's a lot. And I'm a granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, and so it was very traumatic, but it was also unbelievably inspiring because it's all about his perspective and how he was able to move through what you would think like would be the most traumatic thing you could ever go through. His whole entire family was killed, and he maintained the most amazing attitude and went on to live this amazing life and inspire millions of people through his words. So that's an amazing book, and very like will change your perception of of our drama and the trauma that we're experiencing even right now.
Yeah.
Of what's real trauma, what's like self-imposed trauma.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good one. Let me think of what else. Okay. Another one I've read recently that is awesome, Becoming Supernatural. And this is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has lots of books, and there's another one I read that I didn't write down, and I'm now like you, I can't remember the name of it right now, but he's awesome. And he's also, he's a little out there, and I think some people can get turned off by his message sometimes. But what I love about him is he will push, and it's like what I just said about the half marathon, where I already told myself I can't do one. Like, he pushes you to question your self-limiting beliefs in a way that a lot of other teachers haven't allowed me to kind of receive that message. Yeah. And that's kind of his whole thing, is like, we are limiting how much we use our brains, like we're limiting how much we're using our soul. And he has all of these different ways to help elicit opportunities for you to kind of expand upon your own horizons, which again, like, to me, that's the key essence of a spiritual book, is like expanding our horizons. So I love his message.
Like, how do I get out of that? All about that, changing that self-limiting belief is
yes. Exactly. It's huge. Right. And this is something I want to say, this is something you've heard me say a million times, but the thing with all of these books, and it's like with any spiritual work, like, reading the book is one thing, but then like taking the actions that's where the change happens. Like, so, you have to kind of integrate. And sometimes you read a whole book and there's one nugget that you take away from it.
Yep.
But that one nugget can change your life.
Everything.
Change your whole perception. And so you have to just be open to kind of implementing what those little parts of the book that really, in your heart mean something to you. And like, you can take that next step with uncovering more about yourself through that awareness. So I think that's important to kind of touch on. Be Here Now by Ram Dass is... That's a good book, and it's art and it's words, and
like a hodgepodge.
It is a hodgepodge, and honestly, my friend got it for me actually when Ram Dass passed away about, I think it was 6 months ago or so. Wow. She got me that book, and because I've always loved him as a spiritual teacher. I've followed his. He's done a lot of like conversational speaking engagements, and there's a lot of like quotes from him that like just really speak to me. And so I've always loved him as a spiritual teacher, but I only recently received his book. And for me, it's more about him as a teacher than just that specific book. Like, the book is great, but his overall message, of course, the words "be here now." It's all about presence. Enjoying the moment as it comes. It's the ultimate mindfulness, and he just has a lot of gifts as a spiritual teacher. He got famous back in the '60s with Timothy Leary and the whole acid trip mushroom phase. Like they were part of that whole shifting of culture where they were utilizing psilocybin as an opportunity to expand consciousness, not just drugs for drug's sake. And I appreciate that. And now, of course, there's all this new research on how psilocybin can really expand consciousness. And Michael Pollan wrote a book, I think it probably was 2 years ago, something that changed the way you think, something to that effect. I don't remember the exact words, but I did listen to it many years ago, or when it first came out. And it's all about using psilocybin to help alter consciousness. So I'm not here to promote drugs, but I do think that their work gives you another perspective on like what is, different ways of altering our spiritual awareness. So I think those are just good mind expansion books to give you new awareness of that element.
Hold on one second, Lauren. Christine, I couldn't find Follow Your Bliss by Joseph Campbell, but I found Pathways to Bliss. I put the link in the chat. Let me know if that's the right one. I noticed he had several. There's Pathways to Bliss. There's A Hero with 1,000 Faces. That actually looks pretty dope, and I think I'm going to add that to my list. Just looking at the cover, I was like, oh, that looks really interesting. And there's The Power of Myth. So let me know if any of those were the ones that you were trying to mention, but I put the link below. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
No, you're good. Joseph Campbell is, another spiritual teacher. So another book that I love is The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz.
I think I read all of his books.
Yeah, I haven't, but
literally.
It's a super simple book, but it's one of those super simple awarenesses that it's like, oh wait, I can reconsider, like, am I taking things personally? Like, am I really trying my best? And there's a lot of awarenesses in that book that I think that are just good things to kind of reflect back on throughout life. So I love that book.
And as simple as that book is, it's amazing how so many people they'll go back and reread it and they're like, shit.
Yep.
And I keep screwing this up. Like, don't take the thing personally.
Yes.
Do your best. I love how I forgot the other two, but they're just so basic and really it could have been a pamphlet.
Right. Exactly.
But
Good.
But at the same token, you don't, when you read it, you're not like, God, that could have been a pamphlet, because you really, I've read it several times. You're saying, you know what? It's like what they're saying, there's still a nugget that you'll find every time you go back.
Exactly. Totally agree with that. And it's so true. It's like at different phases of your life, you need to remember about different ones of the agreements. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm falling behind on that one. So another one that I love is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Yep. And I think he's just a great spiritual teacher. He's not like somebody that I go to all the time. It's like something I read many years ago, and it still resonates with me. And he just seems like a really kind of gentle soul. So I do like listening to him speak, and I think he has some really good things to share. And along that lines, this is like so basic, but like Oprah's Soul Sunday conversations sometimes are like really, it depends who she has on there, but like some of the people on there, like I saw him on there, and it just was like a great conversation. And I love that element of, listening to, as I said with the first podcast, like I love to listen to conversations between two people, because you can see those moments where the conversation even affects them, and how their own consciousness changes, and how the conversation kind of ebbs and flows. And there's this synergy that happens between two people, especially when it's two like spiritual people who, have a passion for what they're talking about. I always feel so inspired by conversational elements. So that's another thing that I like to listen to. Deepak Chopra is another one, and he's gotten huge in the spiritual community.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine actually just sent me something today that I didn't get to finish it, but I was really enjoying this conversation that he was having. I'll have to look up what it was, but I think he's just got a lot of really good perspective shifts with his awareness, and also he's somebody who helps you to recognize that the limiting beliefs and how we are capable of more. And he incorporates a lot about Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga. And I just think Ayurveda is such an it's a spiritual realm of medicine. And I love that. It's about, using foods and herbs to, enlighten us in different ways. And I think that's another element of spiritual awareness is the foods we take in and how we eat, like mindful eating and all of that. And so he touches on all of those elements that I really like to listen to. So he's another good one.
Books? I mean, not books. Any movies? Because then you did a couple podcasts. But what about movies?
Yeah, movies,
or documentaries, or
documentaries. There's a Becoming Minimalists is a documentary that I think that's what it's called. And they have a podcast too, but I found them, or maybe I found them through their podcast years ago. And then they came out with, I think it's on Netflix too. Okay. And it's all about living more minimally, which I think right now is the key, quintessential where people really need to hear that message, because everybody's so upset about not being able to go out and go shopping all the time. And but then it's this is the time to think do I really actually need that? Or am I just trying to fill a void? Do I get it too. Cause I'm TJ Maxx is calling my name when I drive by.
Oh, okay. We're done with this. Cause
I'm do I really need, I love my new plants. Do they need new pots right now? Or can I hold off? Can I wait? So I think that message is so important right now because we are obsessed with consumption and over consuming in so many different ways. Physically, mentally, emotionally, we are just constantly taking in too much. And I think that their perspective on minimalism goes beyond just stuff. It's the stuff then is one sense of energy, but it creates other energy within us. It's emotional. It's so many other things besides just physical matter. So that's a good movie that I would recommend, and it's a documentary.
Can I bitch about something for a second?
Anytime.
Let me get my chair comfortable. Get an optimal position so I can read the chat. I'm very curious. I want all of you guys to chime in on this as well. Minimalist. So I was doing Marie Kondo BS before Marie Kondo, right? And this whole cleaning out, do you need it, whatever. I think she, as a counselor, as a trained counselor, I think she misses a very important element to this whole, do you need it? Does it bring you joy? What have you? Which is the human brain is not that simple.
No.
And if you're a hoarder or somebody who likes to be surrounded by things, there is a very important mental aspect, even sometimes a spiritual aspect that I think gets lost in her, her and her translator talking to the people, do you need it? No, hold away. Totally. I have a client. How do I tell my client, just because it was your mom's and she's dead, do you need it, or does it bring you joy, or is it holding space? And there's more complexity to that. And I don't know, does that annoy anybody else, or am I just the only person overthinking?
No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I completely agree. I do not believe in living in an empty box, with nothing. And I don't, sometimes we hold on to things for more than just joy. Sometimes there's memories in an item that when we see it, and it's yes, we have the memory in our head, but sometimes you need that physical reminder to bring up the sensations that happen that are associated with that item. And
it just drives me insane. I'm just listen. Or or there are other ways to do it. I don't know. I think I'm probably just a butthole. You guys
No.
on the chat like
I am curious other people's opinions on this because I'm actually with you on this, and I think it is important to not, we don't want to go into like, don't they know you're live?
First of all, how did you sneak? First of all, who is FaceTiming me? How can you FaceTime someone when your phone's on Do Not Disturb? That's some rude shit. Anyway, I'm so sorry, guys.
That's awesome.
I can't even blame Mercury retrograde because Mercury isn't retrograde anymore. I'm so sorry.
Whatever, you're good.
I'm sorry, Lauren.
Please. No, I think you're totally right. Like, I think she makes it down to a level of basic where she's like lacking a lot of awareness of how stuff has more than one place in our lives. And yeah. So I think it's important to not like overfill your place because I do think that drains energy, but I also think that like like her whole thing of getting rid of every book, I was like, oh no, girl, you lost me. Like, no, like if I read a book and it meant something to me, like I may want to read that book again, and it may be 8 years from now, but if life calls for me to read that book again, like I want the one that I took notes in.
I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
I'm read it. Who is it? Yeah. Christine, you're absolutely right. It took me 6 years to be able to get rid of things from my mom. 6 years. And even now, there are a few things that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to hold on to it. And like now there's like, why did I hold on to those god awful cowboy boots? You freaking hate cowboy boots. She didn't even like the cowboy boots. Why'd you hold on to them? You could have sold them and got a lot of money out of it. But it takes time, and you can't, it's just not that black and white. You know, I don't think it is.
I completely agree.
Speaking of grief, Lauren, I forgot to tell you. No, it's a good sign up. I just signed up for continuation training, Reiki for grief.
Oh, now that is fascinating.
I know. I need to make sure. I'm like, am I ready?
You're ready.
And open up old wounds. And I don't know about y'all, but I have been super emotional lately. Like, I am not a crier. That's just not how I'm composed to cry.
Me too.
And I have been ugly snot crying kitchen nightmares. I'm not exaggerating. I don't know what is going on astrologically, like ugly snot crying. And it's been like this for a month. And I was like, maybe I got impregnated by demon sperm.
I love you. I mean, anything's possible.
But this emotional bullshit, I can't.
It's not cool.
Criers, that's very healthy. But the counselor is like, okay, so what am I not addressing in my waking life that's causing me to cry all the time? And I can't figure it out. So maybe I'm becoming more emotional as I get older. Yeah.
Well, so now that you just brought that up, I have to mention one of my favorite spiritual teachers. And he is like, I'm obsessed with him. His name is Dr. Michael Lennox, and he's an astrologer. So I follow him on Instagram. And he posts every single morning, he posts a 1-minute video on what is happening astrologically that day.
What is it? Who is he?
Yeah, so his Instagram is Dr. like Dr. Lennox Dreams. So DrLennox DREAMS, Dr. Lennox Dreams. And I'm obsessed with him. He is, first of all, the best energy. Like you just want to hang out with him. Like he's so awesome, but he's also a dream interpreter and he's an astrologer. He's fascinating. He does, Thursday night, he does these global healing meditations that are donation based. And I'm just
like him when I grow up.
Well, you could be. And that is exactly how I feel. Like I want to be like him when I grow up. And I keep telling him, you are my teacher. And I'm actually doing, I just finished, he has this Astrology 101 class that I finished recently. And now I'm doing a 4-part class that he's teaching on using your voice and helping you like better, incorporate all of that you have to say into the world. So he's awesome. Hugely recommend him. And
I put his Instagram in the chat, y'all.
Follow him. He's amazing. And I'm laughing at Christine Thomas, who said she likes to read Tolle, but as much as I love him, he puts me to sleep. I'm so with you, which is why I needed him with Oprah, because at least Oprah's energy like brought it up, brought him up a little, because totally when he speaks by himself, he's very, it's like, yeah, you could definitely take a nap. And
he's not like, I just kicked my camera again. Where Tara Brach is very calming and and there's a tone. He literally is just like,
it's like a robot. Yeah, he's definitely like lacking in that the charisma. Like he doesn't have that. He's got the wisdom, but his expression is not not there.
Punctuation never hurt anybody.
That's so true. Yeah. So so I have to touch on the Yoga Sutras because of course I'm a yoga teacher, and the Yoga Sutras are a lot like to digest, but I think that if you find a good interpretation, which I don't have one right now, I have to like look because it's been so long since I've read a book about it, but there's some really good interpretations on the Yoga Sutras that it's like kind of guidelines on how to view life in certain ways, really like how we internalize ourselves and how we relate to ourselves, but also how we relate to others. And learning the Yoga Sutras was like definitely, and of course I'm a yoga teacher, so they speak to me in a certain way based on my yoga practice. But I think even if you're not a yogi, the Yoga Sutras, it's a spiritual text that you will take away from for sure.
Absolutely. And even for somebody who absolutely despises yoga.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I said it. Hell yeah, I said it.
I'm not offended. It's not for everybody, you know? It's like,
I can't do flows.
Yeah, it's not your thing.
I'm going to throw up. It's because a lot of shit in my joints, and when I start moving, it all comes out. And I don't. However, Lauren, maybe you can help me. I've asked Courtney this 1,000 times, and I don't like the answer Courtney gives me because Courtney gives me the truth. So maybe she likes me a little bit. Can I do YTT just to teach restorative?
Well, if you're going to do that.
I don't know your answer.
I didn't even answer yet. So
it was that let me know, like, I'm not going to like this shit.
No, I wouldn't say no. I mean, what I would say is if you're going to do that, go like find the best, which like Judith Lasseter is the restorative queen in America. So I would look up Judith Lasseter. I have her book, Renew and Restore, I think it's called, or Relax and Renew. It's R&R something. But and I did a weekend training with her too, and her whole thing is restorative yoga. So I wouldn't say no, and especially with the work that you do, what I would say is find at least like a decent training that has enough hours that you would, figure out about contraindications and things like that. But I mean, I also think, like, I hate to say this, but there's a ton of YTT out there, which is yoga teacher training, that the programs are absolute crap. And like, so, there's people now, and listen, now is a different time. So I can't judge the way I would have judged 6 months ago, but like an online yoga teacher training, like to me now, I know now coronavirus, like I get it. But 6 months ago, if you told me you did your online YTT, I would have been like, what? Like, how do you learn yoga online? Like you need to be in person. Yeah. So I just think it's all about finding the right training. So I'm not I'm guessing Courtney told you absolutely no, that you need to do YTT.
No, she was like, you're going to have to learn all of it. Sorry. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. So
I don't necessarily agree. I think that there's ways that you could learn enough about restorative yoga that you could teach it safely. And I also think that with what you do as a Reiki master and energy healer, that like incorporating some yoga postures that are restorative, like they help to open up the energy centers. Like there are certain restorative postures specifically, which are meditative. And for those that don't know what restorative yoga is, it's where you have different props to support your body and you just relax into the pose for many minutes. So it's
otherwise known as grown-up people nap. amazing. You literally just go sleeps, and then somebody wakes you up, and then you get another position that's really yummy, and then you go back to sleeps again, and then they wake you up, and you get another one, and you go back to sleeps again, and then it ends with like a 10-minute shavasana, which is basically sleep for one more time. Freaking phenomenal.
I mean, listen, a good restorative yoga class is like nothing else. It's so healing. It's awesome. It really is because, and it's like it opens up parts of your body and you don't have to do any of the work. Like you just melt into and you have to have the right props and the right setup, which is why you have to have the right teacher to really have, you have to really know about the props because that's the key. Like you have to set the props up in a way. So yes, I think you could add it into what you do as long as you have the right teachers because it's all about who you learn from. And
I would love to learn from Chris at DYC.
Oh, Chris is awesome. Yeah.
Like
Chris is awesome. Yes.
Encyclopedia of restorative.
Totally. Well, and he's an Iyengar teacher, and Iyengar yoga is just like very like by the book, like this is how it goes. And it's super like type A.
Yeah.
And so it's good for that kind of practice because it's like, he knows exactly what he's doing and where it's, how everything's going to fit. And yeah, his classes are super relaxing.
Two things real quick. Judith, yes, I have done mudras. I have a tarot deck that's nothing but mudras. I have several books. I'm going to put one actually in the, I'm going to put one in the chat. There's also a app that you can do that has you do meditations through mudras as well. So to like tell you to put your hand, or do with your hands, and then it's like and then they play like birds for like a few minutes.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. I love mudras. Yeah.
Christine also gave a really great recommendation for dream dictionaries. For those of you guys who don't know, I actually, years before I even knew I was a healer, started doing dream interpretations for people. She listed one called Dream Sight, a dictionary guide for interpreting any dream. Awesome. If you do not have, if you're like me or a lot of clients I have who wake up in the middle of the night and they're like, what the hell was that dream? I don't know what that is. And I know if I don't look it up, I'll forget. I put a link to dreammoods.com. I still will refer to Dream Mood sometimes because they have the most obscure stuff in there that because the thing about dream interpretations is that I started finding myself having to buy multiple books because not every book has the same. Like you'll have one book that has like gopher, and then you'll have to buy another book that has like goat cheese, and they're not all in one, where Dream Moods tends to have more of you used to be able to type in an interpretation. The site's been under construction for like a year. You can't do that, but you can look it up by letter.
Oh, interesting.
Those were two really good ones. I just wanted to call out really.
Yeah, I love that. And the astrologer that I mentioned, he also has a couple of books on dream interpretation. I have not read them yet, but I'm just going to look at. And on that note, like a dream interpretation is so fascinating to me. And I've had so many people recently ask me how I remember dreams. The key is to write it down the second your eyes flicker open. You have to have a journal next to your bed and you have to immediately write it down. And for me, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, like what you said. If I go back to sleep, the dream is gone. Like you have to, even if it's in the middle of the night, if it's something that you care enough to want to like figure it out, like what was that? Write it down. Sometimes I'll even write down like 2 or 3 words, and those 2 or 3 words, if they're connected enough, will jog my memory. And I might not remember all the details, but I will remember the key element that meant something to me that I wanted to figure out later. So I think and the more you write it down, the more you remember your dreams.
Yeah.
When I'm consistent about it, it's like my dreams become more and more vivid. I remember more of them. I feel like I dream more, but I think it's that I just remember more of my dreams.
I'm going to I hope I can fit this entire link in here. Here's the link to the cards, to the deck I have that's mudra based for those of you guys who want it. It's not very expensive. I think expensive is relative. It's like there's a book and there's the cards. They're like 30 something bucks on Amazon. There you go.
Cards, I think, are another good topic. I'm curious about your favorite decks.
Shit. Okay, so Oracle, Tarot, which one? Oracle.
Well, Tarot. I feel like, how many different tarot options are there?
1 million, because I'm looking at a bucket right now that has 50.
Wow, that's insane. Okay, I always think of like tarot as Rider Waite, and then Oracle is like everything else. But I guess
what I love about tarot is you have something like this, which is the Witch's Tarot.
Yes.
Which is based off of the traditional Rider-Waite.
Just ordered those.
Anybody, knows about tarot, it's all about the imagery.
Yep.
Some decks have different imagery, which can completely, if you're paying attention to the image, can almost add or change.
Totally.
Right? So here's the typical Justice card, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I love so much, which isn't going to change that much between the Rider-Waite, it's just that this whole deck is about badass women.
Yep.
So it's fun.
Yep.
It resonates. It all depends. I have, oh my God.
Let's talk Oracle then, because
These nuts.
just give me like one or two that like you use the most, or that you.
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
I knew that I was wondering.
They're sitting right here. I didn't want y'all to have to look down at my boobies. Okay, so I use this often. This is the Chakra Insight Oracle.
Yeah.
There's a new version of this. Anybody can pick it up, hold chakra cards, and read. It's really great. It takes it to another level if you understand the chakra system, because you're able to pull, just like tarot, when you pull multiple cards, it tells a whole different message and story, and then you're able to kind of dig deeper and go, actually, on the surface level, it may say money, but which is root chakra, but I see some sacral chakra and so there's some other things going on. I just got this deck. I got it off of Kaleidoscope. It's another chakra deck, and it's called Kaleidoscope Swatches of the Chakra deck, which
pretty.
The link. It's really fun. I also like the Sacred Self-Care Oracle.
Okay.
Just because it's typically so spot on anything that I need to do with my own raggedy ass life. Self-care. I have so many.
So good.
They're fun. I love Oracle. Just because anybody could pick them up and use them. And I know you have some Oracle decks too. Tell me about some of yours.
Yeah. So one of my favorite ones is it's actually a yoga deck, but it could be used by anybody. And actually, I need to look up the girl's name. Hold on, because she's a spiritual person, and she's a little It's called the Yogic Path.
So pretty, and I keep looking at it. I'm like, you don't need another deck. But God, it's really pretty. You don't need another deck. But God, it's really pretty.
They are the most beautiful cards that I have. Like physically, the pictures are like just absolutely stunning. And Sahara Rose is her name, and she's a little out there. She's a little wacky, but she's like super young, and like her energy comes through on the cards is what I would say. Like it's what's interesting about cards that I think is so important is sometimes we just tune into decks, and I don't think it's always about what the deck actually is. I think it's about the person, and like just like with books, like certain people are going to connect with a certain book in a different way. But for some reason, as soon as I opened that deck specifically, it's like the cards knew they were mine. And anytime I pull one, it's like, oh my goodness, like it just calls me out. And it's never once have I pulled a card and was like, that doesn't resonate. Like it's never happened. Yeah. So that deck has been spot on. And it comes with a really also beautiful book that has great descriptions. And I love, because as much as I love to like take the message in from the picture, I like to read messages that come with it too, because it just gives you another element, another perspective, and deepens your awareness. So that's like one of my favorite books or favorite decks. I have another deck called The Soulful Woman. I don't know the author, but I think I got them on Amazon. The Soulful Woman deck, and they're also really beautiful. And I'm all about like they're divine feminine, which could be used by a male also. So I don't think it has to be like male, female, like, just because it says woman, we all have divine feminine energy. And so I love that deck. And I've had a lot of really powerful, card pulls with that deck. I also have an Abraham Hicks deck actually that I really, really love. And there's such a positive spin on all of the cards. And I like that because, one thing about the Rider-Waite is like, sometimes you pull a card and you're like, shit, like that. It's like, it feels negative, and of course it's all about interpretation, but sometimes I'm not in the mood to risk, like sometimes I need to know that it's going to be like that positive energy, and I just want that confirmation in some way. So I love that Esther Hicks deck also. I forgot what it's called, but it's a good option.
A good one. I am Tantric Deniki Oracle. I think, okay, once again, Christine, there's like 14 versions. Is it the Secret Oracle, the Tantric Oracle? I'm gonna put both of these in the StreamYard because I don't know which one to refer. So I'm gonna do both of these. We've got a couple minutes. Anybody else? What recommendations do you guys have? What's kicking with you? It doesn't even have to be on the self-help. It could just be something that you tune into to like mentally escape. Totally. Mine has been kitchen nightmares, ugly spot crying. I don't know why. It's been helping. I'm going through some shit and I need to watch Kitchen Nightmares. I'm just kidding. What else? What are some guilty pleasures? Well, this is about soul. What are some things you're partaking in that's just rejuvenating your soul?
Yeah, I'd love to hear other people's things too. I want to say also nature, like to me, like of everything in the beginning of our conversation, we were talking about me being in Tennessee, and like there is just something about nature. And sometimes when I can't actually be somewhere where it's really like the nature's there, like I have to find other ways to incorporate nature. And sometimes it's just like finding a pretty rock in front of my house, you know, like, or wherever, and just recognizing the beauty of that. Like to me, nature is the be all of soul connection.
It is so much. I love nature photography because it does me like, hey girl, how did I look in that shot? It's like, I love people, but they can be so vain.
Like, no, get the other angle.
Tree doesn't care, you know. It's there doing its own thing. Hi, Prairie. How are you, Christine? You've been on fire today. Thank you for all of your recommendations, and thank you, Jude. Jude, I actually earlier before you came in, I two of your recommendations that you put in a chat. The post a couple days ago, I put them in the live chat. So thank you for those. Thank you, Jace, as well. Jace, her recommendation earlier. Guys, what have you been doing? I took up indoor cycle again.
Oh, good for you.
Bought a knockoff Peloton.
Nice. One of my other friends just did the same thing a few weeks ago, and she's obsessed.
Yeah, I love this bike. Hate the saddle.
Oh, no.
Hurts my girl parts and my bum, but it's I used to want to be a spin instructor, and I can't believe I just now buckled down and bought a bike. Somebody got on my nerves at work today, and we had to listen to a town hall, and I played the town hall and did a Peloton class for the last Q&A few minutes because I just had to take care of myself and get myself back together. What is another, Lauren? Let's help the chat kind of get their brains. What's something you've done?
I mean, exercise to me is one of the best. And honestly, like, for, you know, at the beginning of lockdown and quarantine, like I had been exercising all the time, just honestly for mental health more than anything. And then, you know, as quarantine started to like settle in, the routine, we talked about this before, like the routines, it was much harder to like get my act together. And I recently discovered an outdoor boot camp class in my neighborhood, and it's changed my life because it's all socially distant. It's all it's on this massive field, and like just being able to be outside with other people, but not having to like worry is been so therapeutic for me. And it's like doing things I would never make myself do at home, which is the key. Working out with a trainer is like knowing that they're going to make you do things that you're like, I'm never going to do 8 million squats. Like I'm not going to do it by myself, and I should. So that is, you know, it's like, you don't sometimes think that working out can be spiritual, but to me it is. It's like you're reconnecting with yourself, and that is, you know, refuels you. So that's important.
Absolutely does.
Yeah, and I love bike riding. Outside, I use an outdoor bike, but it's awesome just to be outside. And
I love it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anything else?
Congratulations, Jude, on your 10-pound weight loss.
Oh, good for you.
I know Larry, Girl, and Christine were saying walking their doggies.
Yes, me too.
So get your pup time. I'm and almost considering getting a dog. That's how I know that I'm like, wait. Do you?
Yes.
Oh,
Do it.
no, because I had to get a hypoallergenic dog.
Uh-huh.
I worked in an animal shelter for years, so I truly understand. Like you can't just get a pet. Like you got to take care of the pet. And
Totally.
the whole thought of like I got to wake up and walk it.
Yeah. Don't do it in winter is what I would say, because
I
like
think it's cold up here, so I'm like, winter playing real quick.
you need a few months to like really love the dog before winter.
I was like, it's getting a little, and it's hot. It's real humid right now.
Yeah.
It's in human season, so I don't know. What else? We got walking doggies. Yard work is a good one.
Yes.
My dad turns into a completely different person the moment it's spring, and he can go and play in the yard. It's like night and day. That is his therapy, is yard work. And a lot of women I know too, that is their therapy.
Yeah, I love just putting my hands in the dirt. Like that makes me feel good. Like I don't want to wear gloves. I want the dirt.
That's awesome. Well, guys, we're right at an hour. I loved all of your recommendations, guys. Thank you so much. Lauren has like 18,000 more that she probably didn't get to go through. But
I'll have to have it another time.
well, you know what? We can do a part 2. Absolutely do a part 2. You guys, again, we're a community. We're saying that we're a family. Throw more suggestions because you never know who you can help by recommending a book, a podcast, something that you've watched that totally resonated with you. So please continue to do recommendations. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
Lauren, as always, thank you for being my partner in crime.
Yes, thank you for having me here. So fun.
Of course. Guys, until the next first Thursday of the month, which it's going to be like September something. Let's look at the calendar. I swear to God, I have a calendar. It's going to be September 3rd. So we're going to go right before we get into Labor Day. So Thursday, September 3rd. If you guys have a topic you want us to cover, drop it in the chat.
Yes.
We'll be more than happy to do it.
I love that.
Throw in some recommendations. If we want to do another just kiki, ha. If you want a guest, if you know somebody you want to recommend, we can do that as well. So the sky's the limit. All right.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Thank you all.
Yourselves, okay, and have a fantastic August. We'll see you guys September 3rd.
See you later.